How is everyone today? Tonight? Nice one, Vicky. Welcome to my Law of Attraction talk, but we obviously talk about a lot more than just Law of Attraction. But I used that as a kind of to draw the people in, bring them into these sessions to learn about how we can create a life of love and abundance and attract the kind of experiences that we truly desire. Nick, you're new. Have you been practicing the Law of Attraction?
Not consciously.
But you've heard about it?
Yeah.
And it intrigues you?
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies, you've just heard about it, or are you kind of practicing with it?
No, we just heard about it in my house.
You know me from yoga?
Yes.
As well. I know Sadie knows about Law of Attraction as well. What about Vicky? Have you read up? Do you know anything about it?
Not really.
Okay.
Just intrigued, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, from design and stuff.
Okay, wicked. So welcome back to the people who've come back, and the new people, welcome to this session. So the basic idea of Law of Attraction is sort of redefining our perception of reality. That we're not just living in this sort of physical third dimension, we live in a vibrational universe. That everything is just energy. That's all we're working with is energy. Our bodies are made up of energy. And our body will be vibrating on different frequencies depending on how we feel. There's pretty much just sort of those two different spectrums of positive emotions and negative emotions. Anger, frustration, sadness, depression, those are negative emotions. We get that. Excitement, bliss, love, joy, those are positive emotions. Simple, right? You can all nod your head, you can agree and all that kind of stuff. If at any point I start rambling on and talking about something that you have no idea what I'm talking about, please feel free to just put your hand up. And I hope that I can intuitively kind of guide us to a place that we're all on an even playing field. None of us are right or wrong or good or bad, we just all have our own desires. This has been coming up for me a lot this week. Every single one of us are unique expressions of divine life force. We actually thought ourselves into this reality. Thought. Right? We all know that there's thoughts going on in our mind all the time. They say that we have about 60,000 thoughts every day. That is a lot. Most of them are unconscious. We're not aware that they're going on around in our head. How we become aware of the nature of our thoughts is by paying more attention to how we're feeling. So if I start to notice that I'm feeling kind of icky, feeling kind of low, or feeling kind of tense, okay, so I pay attention to what's going on in my mind. Usually I'll find what's going on in there is I might be kind of attacking somebody. I might be going over some past situation in my mind that's making me feel burdensome, that's making me feel icky, gross. So in that moment, there I have power. In that moment, once I realize that nature of thinking, I can then relax. Again, because it's not right or wrong or good or bad, it's just where I am. I can relax, and I can start to feel my way into better feeling thoughts. So I have a kind of default sometimes of just going to a thought of I am love, I am love, I am love. And you know, initially if I'm really stuck on something, that might not work right away, but eventually it'll pick me up. Eventually what I'll do by repeating that thought is I'll start attracting other positive thoughts. And then before I know it, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more light-filled. I'm feeling more expansive. And I can go about my day and I can enjoy my reality because I'm love. So what I experience around me is that kind of lovey-dovey vibe. I have positive encounters with the people I meet. I have joyful, expansive experiences with whatever I'm doing. And that's part of the reason I'm here and I want to do these talks is because, like all of us, we're on a journey. Most of us have or are still struggling with some pretty shitty vibes. I do talk about this. The mainstream media and the kind of current paradigm that we're moving away from is really negative. It's inducing a lot of fear in us. And I remember back to being a teenager and just scribbling down in my journal, fear, darkness, and then I started to get really depressed. Makes sense when you understand the law of attraction. So it's been a long journey of just sort of unraveling that. And then it came up today in a session I had with a client that it all comes down to our awareness. How aware are we of what we're holding? Or just how aware are we of what do I want from life? Or who am I? What am I doing here? All these big sort of philosophical questions, we are all allowed to ask ourselves these questions. In fact, I encourage it. Ask yourself, who am I and what do I want? What kind of experiences do I want to experience in this lifetime? And ultimately, if you start to have an imagination, you start to get these insights, oh yeah, I'd love to have that experience. Law of attraction works that if you keep focusing on the feeling of those thoughts or of that experience you're holding in your mind, it is inevitable that you will end up creating it. So we see it in that negative side, where we start to feel a bit down about something, and then a downward kind of frequency will then attract more of those thoughts. So a sad day with unawareness can end up us becoming depressed for months or years. Because depression is right down there. Which brings me to, I can pass these out if you're interested, if you want them. I did make a few copies. So Abraham and a lot of the other law of attraction practitioners, they point this out to us. It's a very real scientific thing, which is another reason I think all of this talk is really interesting, because it's really going to shift the current world. It's going to shift how we perceive our reality and thus actually change the world that we're living in. Not through force, but through love, basically. Through us owning what we want, what we desire, and actually focusing our minds into that creation. Y'all don't have to have the same vision as me, but I'm holding true to my own vision so that hopefully that will inspire other people to do the same. So write down there, loneliness, victim, bitterness, right? These are all hopeless. Loneliness and hopelessness is something that somebody who's depressed would probably talk about. I feel lonely. I'm hopeless. I'm powerless. So that's right at the bottom of the scale. That's essentially as bad as it can get for us humans. Really deep pain, deep suffering that we're holding because we think it's who we are. Oh, I got sad and so I'm depressed and so then I am that. But we're not the things that we label ourselves with. We're just these energy beings having this experience, walking through life. I've been thinking to myself, as far as sort of permissioning myself to break the rules, or laws, or travel, we've just made them up. People back in the day just made up some rules and then somehow we're all like, okay, let's just follow them. Right? Yeah. That's all they are. We're just people. We're just people making stuff up as we go along. So if there's a law or a rule that doesn't sit well with you, don't pay attention to it. I'm just break the laws, people! But don't do that. Just be who you are and trust that you'll be guided in a positive direction. And you'll be shown where to go. So obviously at the top of the scale is peace, bliss, enlightenment, and all those good vibrations that we tend to feel when we're partying or when we're with groups of friends, or even just when we're meditating or when we're being still or when we're doing things that we enjoy. And so really what Law of Attraction is trying to teach us is that we can actually start to maintain those vibrations pretty regularly. What I've been experiencing, having been down here before and kind of worked up, is that you do very much have to work up the scale. You have to be patient with the process.
It's too big a jump, isn't it, from the bottom to the top? I mean, if you're
We're not
depressed,
there yet,
etc., and then somebody comes in all happy and jolly, you just want to
wring their neck. Basically, screw you, happy person.
Yeah, it's alright.
Like, I want some of that, but I'm not there.
You're not there, so
And even on an attraction level.
just going up to the next level.
Right.
Um,
And I mention this again just for us to be patient with ourselves, because really patience is love. Patience is kindness. Patience is compassion. Right? Kind of like love sort of encapsulates loads of like yummy, good stuff. And I've never been a very patient person, and it was only last year through practicing love that I started to, oh, that's what patience is. And I'm sure as I continue to do the inner work that I'm doing, that awareness will expand. I had an emotional reaction earlier this week because I'm filming my talks to expand the conversation and to connect with people that I met at Awesomeness Fest, who I hope to do talks in London with, so I need to put stuff online.
I don't know if this lot know that you went there, Molly.
Oh, I will talk about that. Awesomeness was amazing. Yeah.
Experiences out there.
It was so
photos.
good.
Nice photos.
There were some nice photos of me at Awesomeness Fest, but there were parties, and anyway, so I put this full talk on YouTube and on my Facebook page, and somebody that I actually very briefly met at Awesomeness Fest just said something about, oh, something's blocking you, you're not fully aware, something along those lines. And I'm quite a sensitive person, and of course I'm coming from an old paradigm of pretty dense unworthiness, hopelessness, shame, humiliation. So I'm consciously working on lifting myself up to higher vibrations where I more consistently feel love and happiness and joy, and I feel good in myself, and I'm happy about who I am and all that stuff. So he's saying a comment that my old paradigm immediately is like, oh my god, negative, somebody doesn't like it, it's bad, it's bad. And my impulsive reaction wanted to take the video down and stop doing the talks and just retreat from the world. Of course, I'm more aware now. So what do? I have to sit with this emotion. And ultimately, I realized, like, oh, that doesn't serve me. That negative comment doesn't serve me, and so I don't need to hold it. I can accept that comment, it's just there, it's somebody's perspective. But I don't need that perspective to make me feel bad about who I am.
Is that a comment under the...
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it wasn't even particularly negative. It was just somebody expressing their point of view. But all of us, to a certain degree, are sensitive beings, right? Because we're energy, we're vibration. We're actually kind of hitting each other's vibration all the time. Every environment we go into, we're soaking up the vibes. We can think of ourselves as sponges. We're going to absorb different frequencies around us. So how do we maintain our own? And that's where things like meditation or energy work or energy practices, yoga, all of these things are actually tools, practices that help us to harness our own energy and eventually master it. Abraham Hicks talks about the fact that eventually we will all be deliberate creators. As we start to shed those lower frequencies that we might be consciously or more likely to be kind of unconsciously holding, as we begin to shed those lower frequencies, we become light-filled beings, and we then deliberately focus our mind on the things that we're imagining that will continue to expand that light-filled vibration that we all are, that we all truly are. And I don't think anything in the world out there is bad or good. I know it would appear that way, but I see it more of just a story that we're telling ourselves. That humanity has been telling ourselves this story all the way along, and we're just coming to a point in our human history where we're changing, big time. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, sorry.
Don't be, it's all good. It's all good. So part of, for me personally, everyone's going to have their own unique desires that they're going to intend and wish to fulfill. I've never been called to protests. I've never been called to sort of anti-war demonstrations, although I don't resonate with war. I don't agree with violence or any of that kind of stuff. I don't invite that into my reality, and in fact I've had very little or close to none of that in my personal experience. So for me, it's just about the fact if that's not your calling, then let's start cultivating a peaceful, harmonious reality for ourselves. Let's continue to invoke those loving vibrations so that the world that we are all creating is that of a loving one, of a harmonious one, a peaceful one, an exciting one, something that's passionate, right? Grab on to those positive thoughts that make you feel good and ride that wave. We're allowed. Again, that's why it's like, drop the rules. Drop those laws, drop those things that don't apply. Because a lot of them don't. I think being fairly idealistic and having this kind of open, sensitive, intuitive nature, I've always sort of thought, well, why can't we? Why can't we change things? How do you change things? Or like, how would you possibly go about doing that? I'm like, I don't know. But I'm sure with enough like minds, we can come up with solutions that are positive for us. And just today, my client and I were talking about the education system and how narrow it is. You know, does that make sense to everybody? Like that, it's real narrow. You're either fitting into that box, and if you don't fit in, you fail. And that's it. That's just not good enough, is it? I think we as people deserve a lot more than that. And how I see an education of real learning is actually us just supporting one another, adult or child, into being that authentic being. Allowing that child, that person, to really be who they are. Oh, look, they like to dance. Maybe we'll get them dancing more. If they don't really gel so much with math, then don't worry about it, no big deal. Just because they're not fitting into that line doesn't make them good, bad, or right or wrong. It just means they don't fit into that narrow line. We are so much more expansive than that. We're so much more filled with potential, infinite intelligence is what we are. But again, because most of us have been conditioned to fit into that narrow line, we actually sort of close ourselves off to that access that we have to infinite potential, to infinite intelligence, because our energy is that of the universe. So how could we not have access to the information that the universe holds? You think about, it's kind of impossible to think about it, but you know space, and infinite space, yeah? Think about this idea that science is telling us, like this universe that we live in, or that we're of, is expanding infinitely. There is no end. So that means that there's no end to us either. How could there be? How could there be a separation? It's just that we, somehow, miraculously or whatever, thought ourselves into this beautiful world, and we're like, oh cool, let's make stuff. Let's create stuff. Let's like play with the trees and do all this cool stuff. And I don't know, somewhere along the line we kind of got some idea and stuck with it, and it kind of separated us. And then we got loads of fear. And the way I understand it, I'm studying something called A Course in Miracles. Has anyone else heard of A Course in Miracles? Just a few of you, yeah? It's pretty dense language. Okay, I have to read that bit again. It's kind of like a lot a spiritual text, where it's really kind of going over the same idea over and over again. And the intention behind the text was really a way to deprogram the fear mind. It talks about the fear mind and the love mind, and there's only these two different ways. So the fear mind is a perception of separateness, division, limitedness, fear. And ultimately what it's saying is that when we're not in alignment with our source energy, when we're out of that awareness of being one with all there is, being one with one another, we're in fear. So what happens, especially through our conditioning, and most of us are brought up in a dominant fear mind world, is that we kind of at some point get kicked and pushed and shoved and hurt, and we end up in fear. And when we're in fear, everything is separate. So we start attacking ourselves, and we start attacking one another. I'm not meaning like attack as in just the fighting physical stuff, I mean in our head. And again, going back, talking about thought and frequency and stuff like that, attack thoughts are always going to be dense frequency. They're always going to be false perception. So any time you notice yourself kind of attacking someone or like, oh, so-and-so did this to me, and now I did, you end up in a lower vibe. Because ultimately, and again, the way I understand it, is that if you're attacking somebody else, you're actually attacking yourself. Because we're one. It's a lot of this stuff, as I speak it as well, it's not particularly comfortable all the time. Because we've been brought up to believe in a reality that isn't ultimately real. It's an illusion. Right? And when we're like in the reality, we're like, yes, this is my reality, and I'm doing this, and I'm this person, and I'm that. And then somebody comes along and says, no, this isn't real, it's just an illusion. Fuck you. Like, how dare you tell me I'm real, I'm real. And that's the ego. Because the ego attaches itself to the external. And it either wants praise, pleasure, or it runs away from it, which was my reaction to that negative comment earlier. My ego felt bruised. Oh my God, everyone put off me. But then somebody brought it to my attention, well, yeah, but your ego still wants the praise. And if you're wanting praise, it's still going to bring the flip. So anything that brings us pleasure, inevitably is going to bring us pain. Right? So it's more likely that we just relax, let that world out there be what it is, and focus more on our inner reality. So talking back again about A Course in Miracles, if you're called to purchase it and do the course, by all means you're going to do it. You're going to end up being a teacher of A Course in Miracles. Fantastic. I'm not saying this to make you all go out and buy the book, because it's definitely not necessarily for everybody. But it's really clear-cut. There's no neutral thoughts. Your thoughts are either coming from fear or they're coming from love. That's it. And trust me, when you start to pay attention, you'll get that. You'll know the difference. When we're worrying, we're in fear. When we're doubting, when we're insecure, we're in the fear. And that's everything. There's no neutral thoughts. It's very black and white when it comes to this. So you want to start to be making the choices, again, that make you feel good. Because when you start making the choices that make you feel good, you're going to keep attracting more of those experiences.
But that feeling that you get with fear and doubt, etc., has become the norm more. And it's like when we're preparing ourselves for things to happen by using that emotion rather than being in that good vibe, which makes us feel slightly vulnerable if the negative does happen.
Okay, really good, because that came the last couple of days. There's been a few nice little insights, because there's always a time delay. If you're in the feeling of doubt and fear, you're closer to a manifestation. But if the manifestation isn't there, you can simply be aware of it. This is where breathing techniques and meditation techniques can be very powerful for helping us move through this process of shedding and allowing ourselves to kind of peacefully, or at least kind of from a supported place, work through our doubts and our fears and our worries. How I've worked with it was, again, as soon as I start to, oh shit, I feel the worry. Oh God, like, so I freelance, and like a lot of times you're kind of like, clients cancel, or a client will come in and then a client will go, and you're like, oh shit, like I hope I can make rent, all this. So that worry used to be pretty consistent for me. That was my old paradigm. How I've worked through that is, again, as soon as I notice it, hold it. Eckhart Tolle talks about bringing the light of your awareness to whatever the emotion is that you're experiencing. A Course in Miracles says that nothing we see is the here and now, that all that we see is coming from the past. So you know, this is kind of cool. We have all seen ourselves here before we got here. Y'all, on some level in your mind, we're looking for this experience. We're opening ourselves up to this experience. And that's how it works. So whatever else we want to manifest, we can continue to manifest it. So when you notice yourself, oh, there I am, I'm worrying about something, try to take a nice deep breath. Sometimes easier said than done, but you can do it. Take a nice deep breath and look at it with your awareness. Look at that worry. And you know what, I'll tell you, it's amazing, because when you look at it, it begins to dissolve. Sometimes what happens is other emotions will come up within that. So I'm looking at my worry and maybe anxiety comes up, or doubt, or insecurity, or humiliation, or disappointment, or whatever. Our bodies are infinitely intelligent. Mind-body connection, infinite. So when you start aligning these two, your body will tell you everything you need to know to work through it. And if not you, if we're vulnerable, I know for me this year, I wanted to get going. I wanted to speed this up. And boom, a healer appeared. So I've been working regular, like once a week, with a healer. And all my healer does is help me bring up my subconscious holdings. And there's plenty of unworthiness and humiliation and oversensitivity and all this stuff, okay? So again, awareness. Bringing your presence to the table, right? Pay attention to how you're feeling, because it's only you, you know? Only you. It's every single one of us is 100% responsible for your life. Not your mom and dad, not your kids, not your husband or wife. You. So if you want to have better relationships, you better start having a better relationship with yourself. Because when you start opening up a dialogue within yourself, you start to get to know a little bit more about who you are and what you want. And then the more you focus on who you are and what you want, and you let yourself feel good, people will appear. Situations will start to look a little bit different to you. When you change your perception, the things around you start to change. This is real. This is it.
And also, if you're continuously practicing that positive vibe, that becomes your norm in the end. You're so used to it. And you like being in that. And then when the negatives comes, you don't, I mean, sometimes you can skip the part where you dig at it.
Yeah.
And you
Absolutely.
can actually say, well, how do I actually want to feel about this situation? And really like focus on that rather than how you are actually feeling
Totally.
about it.
So this is, again, people who practice law of attraction talk about momentum. Talked about that earlier on the flip side. So I get a little bit sad and I freak out about my sadness, and then before I know it, I'm depressed, and I'm depressed for a long time. The more you cultivate and focus on feeling good and having that love in your heart and feeling expansive and feeling like you're one with everything, the more that then becomes your dominant vibration. So when a little bit of insecurity pops in, or a little bit of negativity kind of comes in, I believe it can come to the point that it just bounces off you. Mm-hmm. Or when we're all purely in alignment, we just don't end up there. We don't attract those situations that are going to make us feel that way because we're not holding that vibration. It's physically impossible. So us being in alignment is big time as far as being the people that we're meant to be. As far as enlightening and awakening our community so that we can start living in a more harmonious and peaceful way. I don't think I'm being idealistic. I feel like I'm being totally realistic, actually.
But Esther Hicks, doesn't she? She says alignment trumps all. Esther Hicks says alignment trumps all.
Trumps all.
Yeah.
Because the alignment is just the feeling good.
Even with that 17 seconds, you know, with that, is it 6,000 work hours? 2,000 work hours. 17 seconds.
So Abraham Hicks is an excellent lady to tune into on YouTube. Because loads of people are grabbing hold of her stuff and posting it out there. And any issue you've got, I bet you could YouTube it and find something that she's said about it. 17 seconds of inner focus in our mind on something that we desire or a feeling that we want to have is equivalent to something like 2,000 hours of hard labor. Or work, you know. Working, that stuff. Talking about working as well, my perception about work has completely changed. I don't, kind of in a way know what that is anymore. I'm just somebody who chose at some point to be of service to humanity. Being sensitive, I kind of realized that my happiness depends on other people's happiness, because people that are sad, people that are depressed, kind of make me feel sad and depressed. So I'm going to be of service and figure out how to make people happy, how to inspire people, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, it just comes down to inspiring myself and keeping myself happy and continuing to focus on those kind of experiences that I want to have. Focusing myself on seeing the kind of person I want to be. This is part of it. Speaking in front of people has been part of it for a long time. I studied acting in my early 20s and was blindly pursuing acting because I was so low in myself. I was so valueless that I thought I had to be a famous movie star to have any value at all. And that conflict within myself, that separation, that disconnection, was destroying, soul destroying. I needed external validation continuously, or otherwise I would just fall back into despair. So it's worked out, because I'm still in front of people, but something clicked with me in a meditation sometime last year that I realized that that desire for acting was actually just a desire to have a voice, to be able to be heard. And I think that's part of the slow kind of dissolving of the political system that we're under. It's not really being of any service to us as people. That probably I'm not alone there, that for a long time I felt like I didn't have a voice, that my voice didn't matter, that my thoughts and that my ideas were, oh, fuck off, you're being too idealistic, shut up. So I was like, oh God, this is way bigger than me, how could I do anything? But we all have a voice. We all have a vision. And I think we're all worth it. If we think that something in our school or something in our hospitals or something in our government needs to change, it's in us. To first start seeing the change and then being that change. Get those moms together. Get those committees together. Get these groups together. I know Russell Brand is really talking about this. Organize locally. Bring people together so that we can start communicating with one another about what it is we want. How could we change some of these systems to actually empower us rather than push us down or oppress us? Right? And these are ideas that are pretty big. I know, I'm aware of the fact that I'm a fairly broad thinker, I'm a big thinker, I always have been. That's my own thing. For some of us, our desire might be to have a happy family. Our desire might be to open up a cafe. Our desire, our desire might be to work with animals. Or to work outside, right? It doesn't matter. There's no big or small or right or wrong, or good or bad. It's just, what do you want? Who are you and what do you want? And the more we start paying attention and the more we start permissioning each other to do this work, because it's all within us, the more we'll start to see the changes around us. Naturally. They'll just start to appear. Because we're doing that inner work. And I'll tell you what, this stuff is way more powerful than the fear mind stuff. Way more. I forget, again, I don't know exact numbers. Excuse me, but something like, the pulling power of a more negative vibration can pull in like 2 or 3 people. Where the pulling power of an enlightened master can bring in millions. We know that. Anyone here heard of the Dalai Lama? Put your hand up. There's a pretty fucking enlightened master, right? And the whole world knows about this guy. And he's probably not like advertising himself, right?
I was on Facebook.
he's on Facebook actually.
Yeah.
And he was brought to my attention earlier just from a comment from somebody again about, don't worry about the negative comments. I posted a video saying I needed to vent about this emotional reaction I had. So I put, being who you are and not giving a fuck about what people think. And so I was like, oh my god, like negative, and oh shit. And then a good friend said, yeah, but also don't care if people praise you. Don't give a fuck about people being positive about you. Because those positive, negative, they're just 2 sides of the same coin. I'm reacting to the negative and waiting for the positive. I'm always going to be reacting to the negative and waiting for the positive. Rather than actually just being like, I'm good. I'm just me and I'm alright, I'm good. And I keep like focusing on, ooh, I'm going to go to Awesomeness Fest next year. And, ooh, yeah, I want to set up this center, this kind of retreat or whatever it is,
Ooh, shiny.
Ooh,
shiny.
Shiny! We are light-filled beings. We're pure energy. There's a quote from Marianne Williamson that says, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We all have an innate ability to shine when we give ourselves permission to do so. And as we permission ourselves, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. So it really is starting to pay attention, like what thoughts are you having that are creating a certain frequency, and how can you shift or jump trains? Okay, meditation, paying attention.
Could I just ask you about that, if I can articulate it, that it's that point, that switching trains point, because I'm quite aware of this. I've read quite a few books about it, and I'm really aware when I'm being negative. Like, I can sit there and be saying it, and I know what I'm doing, and I know that I'm creating something down the line that isn't good, and I still do it. Like, I'm sat there saying these things, going, why are you doing this, why are you doing this? And I won't go and meditate, because I know if I go and meditate, I'll have to deal with the fact that I'm saying these things and doing these things, and I'll avoid it and make an excuse not to go and meditate. And I think it is that fear of
What
the
else
light
is gonna
side
come?
of thing.
Oh, okay, the light side, your power.
Yeah, almost. But how do you make that switch at that point? I know that I should go and meditate, but I'm not even doing that. Is there anything you can do in that moment to go?
What's coming for me is something I think Lynn and I talked about the other day as well, or maybe it was just an Esther and Abraham thing that I watched, is Okay, a couple of things. So, if you start to feel a negative vibration, don't talk about it. Because talking is even denser than the thinking. So, I might be having attack thoughts, but they're a hell of a lot less powerful than actually attacking somebody, because then I'm putting that attack on and out. Okay? So if you notice yourself, oh, there's that. Just be present. And also, it's okay for us to lighten up. There's no problem and there's nothing wrong. We're all human. We all have the good, the bad, the light, the dark. So just bring your awareness to it. You don't need to tell, I'm going to say Martin. You don't have to tell him about it. You don't have to tell anybody. Just look at it. You start to feel it, then start looking at those thoughts. You don't have to go sit down and meditate, just breathe into it. That's something I was thinking of. Obviously, Xenia's another yoga teacher, meditation, does wonderful Soul Sunday sessions. And I watched a video with Gabby where she just had people sitting down. So we're going to do this. So just uncross your legs and put your feet flat down on the seat there or on the floor. Just have a sense of kind of lengthening your spine and dropping off any tension that you're holding. So obviously I'm in front of the room and I can feel, I'm aware of quite a strong kind of like whoo sensation in my heart. That doesn't matter, I just thought I'd share that with you. Okay, by the way. All you're going to do is close your eyes and bring your awareness into your body. So just close your eyes and kind of scan around your body. Notice if you're feeling anything. Most of us are probably going to be feeling something, right? We're feeling beings, we're feeling something. What's so bad here? So all we're going to do now is wherever you're holding that feeling, breathe into it. No judgment here, just breathe into it. And then as you exhale, let's exhale through the mouth and let it go. And then just do that 2 or 3 times. So breathe into the feeling. And as you exhale through the mouth, let it go. And just do it one more time for me. And then just open your eyes. Did anyone feel a softening or feel any kind of release as they exhaled and consciously let it go?
Yeah, definitely.
Hello, how simple was that? Okay? Recognize, again, in both directions, there's going to be momentum. And also, I just want to add as well, don't think that you're going to create it in the future. You're not. It's not. You're fine. You're good. You're so aware of that negative thing. Now, just the next step is just don't follow through with the negativity by over-talking it. Eckhart Tolle, and this is something Sam reminded me about, is Eckhart Tolle says that we are addicted to thinking. Oh, what is that? Well, what is that? How could it be? What happened when I was little? Okay? Sometimes that thinking mind is not going to find the answers for us, right? Sometimes we just need to actually start to deepen the breath. So in yoga, breath, prana, life force, same thing. And our breath, as we deepen the breath, we actually sort of change the way the mind is. So the idea is the deeper you breathe, the deeper you think. The deeper you breathe, the more aware we are. Short breath, scatty, chaotic. No breath, dead. Or stopping that life force. Mega stressed, shock, panic. No, nothing there. There's no flow. There's no breath. So we're going to be in a pretty closed off state. I even talk about that with yoga clients of stress is a big one. Who here has ever dealt with stress? Put your hand up. Never? Right? God, sometimes just again, if you're like watching the news, or if I watch a movie that has a bit of violence, I'm like, oh my God, I'm stressed out. I feel it in my body, and there's a whole load of chemical reactions that go on in our body when we get stressed that are really, really hard on our body. Some of the foods that we eat can stress out our bodies, right? I'm not like, again, there's no right or wrong or good or bad, but our body is in this continual exchange with the external reality. And when we're not aware, it's really easy, stress, work, oh my God, and then we're suddenly like hardcore stressed out. Our immunity and our nervous system is totally shutting down on us, and we get sick, or we get seriously sick, okay? It's ultimately all due from this kind of bombardment of stress, and us just taking, like, oh my God, okay, it's just, right? And there's no space. So a lot of this work for me, and in the yoga, the meditation, mindfulness, law of attraction, all this stuff kind of crosses over, it's all one thing, really. Relax and create more space. So, thought frequency. It's behind all manifestation. So again, a way to kind of detach from that fear, mind, external reality. It's not ultimately real, it's just people's thoughts. Right? Corruption, greed, fight against the man. Bash, you're seeing like fights and protests and stuff in the street. That's a creation. That's a people all agreeing and making that happen. We don't have to engage in it. It doesn't have to affect us if we don't want it to. Can we consciously send the outer world love and light, peaceful vibes? Yes, we can. But we don't need to engage in that fight. We don't need to pay attention to it. Me not paying attention to it doesn't mean I'm unaware of it. Doesn't mean that I'm unaware of the suffering that's going on in the world. I'm very aware of it. But I know I can only be of my highest service if I'm in a loving, peaceful, enlightened state. And I truly believe that every single one of us, that's us, that's what we are. So thought frequency, one thought of I'm stressed, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, one thought's not so powerful, right? But it's over years. So maybe a kid at school told me I was fat when I was 5 years old, and I kept thinking it, and I kept thinking it, and over and over and over and over again, until, oh look, I manifested a fat body. Or my mom had struggles with money, so money's hard to come by, money's hard to come by, money's hard to come by. And there I am as an adult, and oh, guess what? Money's hard to come by. So all I've been doing is setting these intentions. I intend to make good money. I intend for life to be easy. I intend to love my body, and I intend to enjoy my reality. So the more I make those intentions, the more I focus on those, anything within me that's going to hold me back from creating that manifestation will come up. So that's all it is either stuff coming up or working off to recalibrate from the feedback you're getting from the external reality. So again, look at those paradigms where we're really aware of, oh shit, that old thing again. Relax, breathe into it, and say, I'm ready to release you. Or show me what you got. Kyle Cease, who was one of the speakers at Awesomeness Fest, had quite a good technique that Sam's taken on board as well. When you notice the old paradigm, most of us will have maybe at least sort of one area of our life that we're not super flowing in. Maybe it's our relationships, maybe it's our body, maybe it's money, whatever, right? One of us will probably have at least one, or definitely one point in life like I've had one, the whole spectrum. But as we're kind of retraining ourselves, or we start to kind of focus on the good vibes, and those old paradigms come back to remind us, fear mind is insidious, by the way. It will try to creep back in if you're not looking, if you're not paying attention. When you notice it, you can just call it a name. And Kyle Cease would be like, you know, whenever he'd have the doubt or whatever come up, he'd be like, oh no, that's Gary. He'd label it, like, yeah, right? It's, oh, lightens it up. Because again, good, the bad, the dark, the ugly, the light, we're all of it. All that ugliness you see outside, that's us too. We would just like to, you know, make it a little bit more fun and joyful, because we're here. We decided that at some point. Maybe even before we were born, we decided, I want this life to be fucking awesome. So I'm going to go through some turmoil, and I'm going to go through some hard times, but eventually I'm going to get there. And then I'm just going to ride that wave and enjoy it. Abraham, or Esther, says her paradigm for her life is happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, happy, dead. So there's none of this, you know, having to go into a home and slowly degenerate. It's just, oh, I think I've lived enough. Boom, done. And then that, I mean, that's a big subject, right? Death is hard. Loss is hard for us. But again, I believe that we can find a way in our mind, a perception that helps us deal with it more harmoniously. Because we're all one, even when somebody dies, they're not really gone. They've just left their physical body. They're always with us. We can always call on them for guidance, we just can't hold them, and that's what we miss, because we're human beings and we like hugging and snuggling and doing all that stuff, because that's another one, that's pretty good for us, by the way. Hugging and snuggling and feeling that contact is really good for keeping those good vibes going. There was a lot of hugging at Awesomeness Fest. There got to the point after like day 2, you'd go to shake someone's hand and be like, hi, there you are, come here, give me a hug, total stranger. And that's really good. Maybe we'll get there, you know, we'll get there in our own communities. Hi, give me a hug. In business meetings, we're just all hugging each other and keeping those good vibes going. So thoughts, the more you think something, the denser that thought becomes until it's a manifested reality. Okay, and that goes for any kind of thought that you're thinking. Think of this as well, that our external reality is always a reflection of our own inner state of being. So if we're seeing something out there that's pissing us off, it's not really about that out there, it's about where we are inside ourselves. And this is really quite clear, actually. So Abraham talks about, and not just Abraham, law of attraction practitioners talk about our emotional guidance system. Real simple, when we feel good, we're in alignment. When we don't feel good, we're out of alignment. So, and again, when we can lighten up about those old paradigms or those old ways that used to make us feel like shit or whatever, when we can lighten up about it, we can just be like, oh yeah, I remember you, no big deal. I'm not going to focus on that anymore. I'm going to choose a better feeling thought. That's where relaxation comes in. Just, oh, I see you, relax. It's pretty amazing when we relax, what it does is create space in our being, which then allows better feeling thoughts to come in. So if you can start reprogramming your mind to think more positive thoughts, even before you believe it, definitely before you start to see it, then it's inevitable. You will start to attract and experience better stuff. Make sense to everybody? Yeah? Anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah. Yeah, Lisa.
Okay, I'm in the sort of position right now of knowing that I want to change my diet, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm putting out every resistance possible to actually doing it, because I don't know why. It's really, really annoying me to death. So you've given me something to help me. I know a load of stuff. And all I keep doing is, it's so hard, where do I find the right foods, where can I find the healthy food, where can I find a good salmon that's not got all that shit in it, and, or you know, you shouldn't have corn-fed beef, you should have grass-fed beef, and then I just go, oh my god, maybe that will in the burger, and go to Costa.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I saw your post about I'm Fed Up, because there's another foodie documentary that's really highlighting the food industry's issues, okay? Sugar's like cocaine, people. It really is. The way they extract sugar from the plant is the exact same chemical process that they do with cocaine. The exact same receptors fire off in our brain when we eat sugar. And all of us were probably treated with sweets when we were little. So this, no, well done. Okay, as a whole, there's a lot of sugar in our diets because there's a lot of sugar in lots of food. And what you were saying is perfect because you were saying it in what you were saying. Oh, it's too hard. I'm fed up. Oh, I can't do this and I can't do this. Overthinking. Practice the feeling of the person that eats well and the person that enjoys eating healthy food. And see yourself going to the supermarket and finding the lovely organic and this and that. And oh, do you know what? You might randomly, naturally, just by focusing on that vibration of the person you're seeing yourself to be, you might just attract a fishmonger who is like, oh, look, I've got this fish, you can have it, and da-da-da. The mind, again, it's that disconnect of you're seeing it there, but then the how. Get rid of the hows. Mike Dooley talks about the cursed hows. If you have a vision for something, focus on the vision, let yourself feel that vision, keep yourself as best we can relaxed, but also I want to stay in that feeling. I want to stay in that feeling that I can see in my mind. Be patient with it. Notice when those attack thoughts come into your head, oh, it's too hard, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. That's going to be self-defeating. That's going to keep you stuck where you are, right? You feel that. You're like, I want this, but I...
The fellow wants beef and so everybody give it, so I want it. There's nothing nice in the cupboard, it's all of a pink and white thing. Shit. And,
Sorry, can I add on to that?
Please do.
Yeah, sure. So when you're eating your beef and everything, like Molly was saying, it's all about changing your habits and the way you think. So when you're eating the beef, just think about how good this beef is for you. When you're eating sugar, think about how good the sugar is for you. It sounds like a stupid concept, because it's actually not, but just by saying actually you're not. Now, just everything I've eaten has made me fat. But every time I eat something now, if I just say this is healthy for me, this is going to make me into this fit person that I want to be, eventually what happens is your mind and the energy and the brainwaves start to change, and you start to think, today I'm going to eat something a little bit different. I'm going to eat a carrot and hummus instead of that chocolate bar I was thinking about the other day. And it's a natural thing, it will naturally happen. You won't be like, I'm going to push myself to eat that carrot. It will just be, I fancy that carrot today.
so making it all more a positive experience rather than sort of self-starving.
Never beat
once
yourself
you've done
up
it,
for something.
Okay.
If you're going to eat a chocolate bar or whatever, never say this is bad for me, why am I doing this? Always say, this is good for me, this is going to give me the energy I need to cope throughout the day.
That's so good. Thank you, Phil. That was amazing.
Before I started getting organic vegetables delivered and still went to Tesco's and the superstores, I actually used to go around saying, if I don't buy it, I can't eat it. Before, and that would be, that was a few years ago now, but just going around then, if you pick it up and you think, oh, that's not going to be any good for me. If you don't get it in the first place, it's not going to be in your cupboard for you to go, oh, shall I get it, shall I not? Shall I eat it, shall I not? I don't know.
And you're talking about living with a partner, and you cook for him?
No, he cooks.
He cooks? So own your power. Cook what you want. Eat what you want. You can!
Okay.
I'm sure you can. But what Phil said was really impressive. Thanks for saying that, because I don't want to put fear in our minds, because I get caught up in that food revolution as well. But again, I'm just aware of the fact that this is another paradigm that has to change, that's going to change for us. But as we change our paradigm, that paradigm will change naturally, right? As we start to evolve and say, no, hold up, sugar is not good or bad. I don't even think drugs are good or bad, right? It's just stuff out there. Okay, let's kind of go on this now. It's 7 o'clock, kind of need to go. If you think something's good and you do it, it's good for you. If you think something's bad and you do it, it's bad for you. The more you focus on feeling good, just like what Phil said, the more you feel good around food, no matter what you're eating, you will naturally start to eat the way you want to eat. And you'll naturally gravitate and attract the foods that you're aligned with. Relax about it. Do that. So if you're thinking, oh shit, I'm sitting in front of this beef again, I don't really want to eat it. They're like, I love this beef. I'm like eating a salad. And do whatever you can to uplift yourself around the food. Or even do little energy exercises if you, and it might feel weird for people, but like, if you just kind of sit with your hands on over the food, like, I'm sending this food love and light, I'm sending this food positive energy, I'm sending this, that will work. That will help to lift the vibration of your food so that when you ingest it, it's going to be easier to digest. Sometimes I say stuff like, because I'm not strict with my diet, I kind of just eat what I want, but I found that the more I love myself, the more I'm gravitating towards food that I love and enjoy, and it's all good. I'll still have sugar, I'll still have whatever, but when I notice that old paradigm pop up, I just kind of relax around it, and I tell myself my body knows exactly what to do with this. My body's going to take exactly what it needs, and it's going to get rid of what it doesn't need. That's all. And then it does. Any more questions?
Do you think in the power of people then you could get rid of all of these shitty things that we've got in all these mass superstores and have these wonderful,
Totally.
fresh, local...
People got it there. People put it there in the first place. Like 100 years ago, there wasn't shit in the supermarket. So we put it in there, so we've got the power to get it out.
Totally, man. That's the thing. It's us. We're it. We're not separate from that, like, the supermarket and the evil politicians and stuff. They're us. We're, we're all everything that we see. So the more we focus on, oh yeah, the good vibes around this and around that, and not going to hold resentment towards him or her or whatever, the more we dissolve that energy, the more we start to uplift ourselves, right? We're here because we want more uplifting, enlightening, expansive, and beautiful and joy-filled experiences. We want that, and we can have that. It's just tweaking a few things in our minds so that we continue to empower ourselves. God, we're so powerful. We're so infinitely powerful we don't even know. So the more we start to own that power, the more we start to come together and bash it out and talk about this shit, the more we're just going to start to really not just uplift North Devon, but we're definitely going to be uplifting this whole community and area. The more we start to uplift it, the more we can start having a positive impact around the world. Briefly, Awesomeness Fest, that's what it did for me. It started to affirm my inner world. I've been like alone and withdrawn for many, many years now. I just withdrew completely from people because I didn't want to be knocked back. I applied to this Awesomeness Fest, know what's going to happen, I don't know, no intention, no kind of expectation. But I arrive and there's people there. They're doing business, they're making millions of pounds, and they're doing a conscious, enlightened business around the world. Coaching CEOs and politicians. Excuse me. Fish about that. And also meeting new paradigm communities. People who are setting up the communities and grow their own food. We can do that. We're allowed. Or maybe we stand up and just say, no, hold up, we just want to know what's in our food. We're allowed. We're allowed. And we open your eyes to this movement because it's happening all over the world. The internet is connecting the web, we're all connected, and it's all very apparent to us. So the more we really decide what do we want to live, how do we want to live, the more we're just going to create that world for ourselves. Thanks everybody!
Thank you, Molly.
Have a good evening! I'll see you tomorrow.